Hello, hydrocarbon cocktails. Ishan here. Guess what? This devlog was delayed too, just like the last one. But the tasks we finished were tedious. Like every time, I worked on creative stuff and Raga worked on technical parts. We devised the name for our game too, since Project Tactics was a placeholder name anyway. Epsilon Protocol. It might not make much sense at the moment, but it fits right in with the storyline we have in mind. The Epsilon protocol kickstarted the events that will happen in the game story. Let's not get ahead of ourselves and focus on what we have right now. Since the last update, I have worked on just designing and creating a level for the game. Now have a look at this level creation montage. I had the level already blocked out in Unity, so instead of blocking out again in Unreal, I used a plugin to export the blocks as FPX from Unity and then directly imported them to Unreal Engine. I eventually ended up changing some dimensions and layouts. Duh, level design is iterative. Let's take a tour then. The map is primarily a power plant that manufactures fuel cells for the Epsilon. It's in the middle of a desert, because then I don't need to populate it with foliage or buildings. Oh, there needs to be a story around it too. This desert has abundant veins of the newly discovered radioactive element paramium. Makes sense to have a power plant out in the desert. The player units will be dropped right outside the compound. The building has a warehouse and administrative offices out front. The warehouse itself is split into different rooms. It has catwalks where the player can strategize, split, and position their team. Right above the offices, we have staff recreation area. It might just end up being the densest enemy hotspot. All these areas will be populated with enemies. And the final room is the reactor room, the main objective of this level. Players will have to navigate the level, making choices about their path to the objective. They can be sneaky, go guns blazing, or get ambushed depending on their choices. The mission ends by overloading the reactor. Come on, we gotta have a boss fight at the end. There's no fun without it. Ooh, the satisfaction of defeating that big, bad bro. Amidst this, I also set up character puppets. It was quite simple, I don't know why I even mention it. After this, Raghav could start working on big units.
This time around, I mostly worked on improving the UI UX. In the last devlog, you might have noticed that the UX was unpolished for showing the selected weapon, unit, or ability. I added colored backgrounds for better visual indication. Selected unit, weapon, and abilities will all have a green border. A few more visual cues were implemented. For example, if an ability cannot be used because of low turn points, the ability cost is displayed in red. When hovering over an unusable ability, the border color is red, otherwise a green border is displayed. I used green and red color as their meaning is straightforward, but they are not final. After this, I moved on to improve the tooltips section. It was shifted from the top right corner to just above the abilities. I also displayed information in the tooltip like damage, range, and cooldown if any. Previously, the ability button was disabled for unusable abilities, which resulted in the tooltip not being displayed for them. Now, the button is enabled so that the player can view the tooltip to get more information about the ability, but the ability cannot be selected. Then, I added the functionality to show the amount of damage that would be dealt to the units while hovering over them with attack abilities selected. As I was already working on UI, I even created a basic main menu screen and pause menu screen and added some functionality like a quit game button and options button where graphics settings can be changed and more setting will be added on. While I was working on upgrading the UI, Ishan was done with the basic level layout and importing the units character models. So I started working on incorporating big units that occupy more than one grid location. A lot of system needed to be changed for big units to work properly. The movability and pathfinding for big units were already present in the tooltip, but as we have changed a lot in the base toolkit, it needed some tweaks to work in our game. There were other problems with big units, like aiming at the big units. In our game, players select the target grid position to deal damage instead of selecting the unit itself, and we wanted to keep it that way. You might be thinking, what's the difference between the two? For units that occupy one grid location, there is no difference, but in case of big units, if half of the big unit is behind cover, the player can target the half that is not covered to deal more damage. While working on this, I noticed that attacks can pass through a unit. I changed it so that now a unit can only target another unit when the environment or other units do not block its line of sight.
Next, I'll work on getting the animations, VFX and sound done, while Raga will populate enemies, test the level and squash the bugs. The Epsilon commands you to like, share and subscribe in the name of the regime. Prepare for assimilation. Declare your servitude.